The story starts with our boy running toward a club while holding a box of beer. Meanwhile, in the club where he works in a VIP room, a club employee apologizes to a customer who asked for a Harmony Golden wine, which had been out of stock for a while. The customer gets angry and demands the employee strip and bow down to him as an apology. This shocks the employee. Suddenly, the boy from earlier rushes into the room and tells the customer that he found the wine he ordered and rushed there to bring it. This angers the customer for a moment, but the boy tells the customer not to harass their staff. The customer then throws a glass of wine at him and asks them to call the manager. The boy and the girl leave while another person enters the room and starts complimenting the customer to calm him down. Meanwhile, outside, the girl, whose name is Sayaka, wipes the wine off the boy and thanks him for his help. In this era, the city is controlled by only a few people, a halfway gray mix of mafia capitalism and politics. People with money and power rule over the countries. The next day in college, our main character, Daichi, is done with his reports with his friend who was also with him at the bar last night. Suddenly, Daichi's girlfriend comes to him, and they all leave the university together. The blonde guy, who's a friend of Daichi, leaves them afterward, and once he does, Daichi and his girlfriend, Meru, also leave. But in reality, the blonde guy is watching all of this from afar and feels jealous. Later, Daichi and Meru decide to go on a trip, and she also leaves. After that, Daichi goes to the hospital where his mom is admitted and receiving treatment. Just when Daichi is about to leave for work, his mom wakes up and calls for him. She apologizes to him, saying that at such a young age he has to take care of her when it's supposed to be a time for him to enjoy his life. But Daichi asks her not to say things like that and promises her that he will take care of her. After that, Daichi goes to work, but Sayaka hasn't shown up today, which shocks both the manager and Daichi because she's not the type of woman who slacks off. While they're having this conversation, Daichi's friend Go suddenly comes to him and asks him to accompany her because he wants him to meet someone. In the VIP room, Go introduces Daichi to the same customer from yesterday and a man in a suit who turns out to be a lawyer. The lawyer introduces himself to Daichi, along with his law firm. Then he tells Daichi that if he ever needs anything or if anything happens, he should contact him, and then tells him he can go. Daichi leaves the room, and after work, he and Go together. While they're on their way, Daichi suddenly sees a message. It's from Sayaka. She asks him to come to her apartment because she has something to talk about. Go sees this too and starts teasing him, saying maybe it's a love confession. When they both reach the hotel, Daichi receives another message with Sayaka's room number, and she asks him to come alone. Go comments that she seems desperate and encourages him to go alone right away. Just as Daichi is about to leave, Go suddenly stops him and gives him an energy drink, asking him to drink it before going. Daichi is about to put it in his bag, but Go insists he drink it immediately since he wants to have the remaining half. Daichi drinks half, gives the can back to Go, and heads off to meet Sayaka. While in the lift, Daichi recalls how Go was acting seriously and how Sayaka inviting him to a fancy hotel was surprising. Suddenly, Daichi begins to feel dizzy. By the time he reaches the 18th floor, he feels even more faint. When he gets near room 1815, he suddenly collapses in front of the door. Someone opens the door. The next day, when Daichi opens his eyes, he finds himself in a bedroom. Next to him is the body of Sayaka. Seeing her in this state, Daichi is shocked and starts screaming. When he looks around, he realizes he's in the hotel room, and he's not wearing any clothes either, and he notices that his hand has some kind of scars on it. Suddenly, the police knock on the door. Daichi thinks they are there to help and instantly opens the door, but the police rush into the room, knock Daichi to the floor, and put handcuffs on him. They find Sayaka in this state. Daichi tries to explain, but they stop him from talking. They arrest Daichi and take him to jail. Meanwhile, Go is standing outside the hotel and smiling. A few days later, the lawyer from before, whose name is Jugasaki, comes to meet Daichi. Daichi had called him because he had given him his card and asked him to call if he needed anything. Daichi asks the lawyer to help him. The lawyer gathers all the reports about Daichi and the case. It turns out that the police report states Sayaka invited Daichi to the Grand West Hotel, and after consuming alcohol and drugs, they did something. After that, they got into an argument, and he ended up strangling Sayaka to death. But Daichi shouts and screams at him, telling the lawyer that it's not true. The lawyer calms him down, saying that he knows he's innocent and that it's just the police report. After that, the lawyer tells Daichi that he talked with everyone, Go, his part-time manager, and even his girlfriend. Daichi realizes that his girlfriend and mom may be worried about him. The lawyer asks him if he actually drank the night before because the reports detected alcohol in his breath, and he also heard that Daichi couldn't handle liquor. On top of that, there were traces of drugs found in Daichi's urine. This shocks Daichi even more, and he tells him that he definitely didn't take any drugs. The lawyer tells him that Sayaka's skin tissue was also found beneath his nails, which shocks Daichi even more. The lawyer reveals that the report says he had a conflict with the victim in a fit of rage and ended up strangling and killing her. Daichi is shocked to hear this. The lawyer tells him that it's okay to deny everything, but fighting for innocence will only prolong the trial. Daichi tells him that he has a sick mother and needs to gather hospital fees and be by her side. Otherwise, she will be lonely. Saying this, Daichi starts crying and asks the lawyer what he should do. The lawyer tells him there's only one way to get released quickly. Daichi instantly tells him that he'll do anything, and the lawyer advises him to admit everything. He tells him that the circumstantial evidence isn't enough and fighting for innocence has a very low chance. So it's much better to admit it and show a remorseful attitude and to leave a bad impression on the judge. If he admits to the murder, you will get probation. Hearing this, Daichi is shocked, but he remembers his sick mom in the hospital. On the day of the hearing, Daichi acknowledges everything, that he called Sayaka there and was drunk, so his memory is hazy. But he thinks he was the cause of her death and sincerely apologizes. After that, the court sentences him to 15 years of imprisonment, which shocks Daichi. He looks toward the lawyer and asks him why the judge isn't giving him probation. The lawyer adjusts his glasses and tells Daichi that it seems the judge had a much stronger impression than expected. Hearing this, Daichi shouts at the lawyer and tells him that this wasn't what they discussed, but the judge silences him. But Daichi keeps screaming and shouting at the lawyer, so the police take him away. In prison, Daichi remains depressed for several continuous days, and the other inmates make fun of him. While doing his labor work, Daichi mumbles his mom's name, and suddenly someone beside him asks if he knows he was set up. He tells Daichi that he was curious, so he looked into him a little and explains the whole story. That one night, Daichi suddenly fell asleep, and when he woke up, he was next to Sayaka's dead body. Hearing this, Daichi is shocked and asks him how he knows that. But the person tells him to share more details about what happened, and depending on the situation, he might be able to help him get out of prison. Daichi gets suspicious of this person and wonders why he knows about his case. The person introduces himself as Kamishiro and tells him that he is serving his sentence for a false charge just like him. But Daichi decides to ignore him because he seems too suspicious. The person tells him, there's no need to rush. If you feel like talking, you can talk later. But he also warns him to be careful of that lawyer, Jugasaki, which shocks Daichi for a few moments. At night, Daichi keeps thinking about that person and about what he knows. But he also thinks about his girlfriend and his mother afterward. Meanwhile, another prisoner is beating up his cellmate to show dominance, and his subordinate tells him about Daichi, that a new prisoner has arrived who murdered a young woman. The next day, someone calls Daichi while he's doing pull-ups. He takes him to the prison yard while Kamishiro watches all of this. In the back of the prison, the prisoner from the day before is sitting with his gang. Seeing him, Daichi gets scared, but the other prisoners block his way when he tries to run. Gang leader grabs Daichi by the neck and starts kicking him in the stomach, saying he won't forgive someone like him who murdered a woman. He kicks him again in the head and begins punching him in the face. Meanwhile, the other prisoners are shocked because they've never seen this man this angry before. After the beating, Daichi suddenly sees blood in front of his eyes. One of the prisoners mentions that outside there's news that a criminal's mother died from the shock. Hearing this shocks Daichi and he realizes that his mother has died. He starts regretting everything that happened and remembers that he only went to the hotel when Sayaka called him. He also starts recalling everything the lawyer did to him. Remembering all this, Daichi suddenly starts smiling and laughing, which shocks the prisoners around him. They're stunned that he's laughing after getting so badly beaten up. But Daichi stands up and suddenly punches the prisoner in the face. The next day, Daichi suddenly wakes up and Kamishiro is sitting beside him. The doctor comes in and tells him that he's better now. Suddenly, Daichi remembers everything and asks what happened to that guy. Kamishiro tells him that he's in solitary confinement because he caused quite a commotion yesterday. The doctor then tells Daichi that his injuries were pretty severe, but he's recovering well. Just then, Daichi remembers Kamishiro saying he knew about him and asks if he truly believes that he's innocent. Kamishiro replies that he doesn't look like someone who would kill a woman and tells him that the lawyer he was assigned, Jugasaki, set him up. When Daichi is about to ask how he knows that, the doctor calls him. Kamishiro tells Daichi to prepare to give up almost everything in order to grab something important. Daichi asks him, if I give up everything, what can I grab? This shocks Kamishiro, who then tells him to rest for now and leaves. Outside, the doctor tells Kamishiro that it's not very common for him to get close to someone. Kamishiro rolls up his sleeves and shows that he's still getting goosebumps from the look Daichi gave him earlier and says he might have potential. A few days later, Kamishiro is playing in the prison yard when Daichi approaches him with a completely changed expression. Daichi asks him about what he said before, that he could get him out of here, and what he meant by that. Kamishiro tells him it means exactly what it sounds like, but he's not going to introduce him to another lawyer. He says he can't share details yet, not until he knows how serious Daichi is. Daichi asks how he can prove that to him. Kamishiro removes his glasses and asks Daichi what he'll do when he gets out of this prison. In that moment, Daichi instantly realizes that the aura around Kamishiro has changed. Daichi remembers that he was expelled from the university. He hasn't heard anything from his lawyer, girlfriend, or friend, and he's also not really sure. He's not even sure if his mother has truly passed away. If she has, then he has nothing left to lose. All of this happened because someone killed the girl he knew and pinned the crime on him. He got caught in their trap. He tells Kamishiro that if he gets out of prison, he'll find the real culprit and take his revenge with his own hands. Kamishiro asks if he can give up everything for that revenge, and Daichi tells him he already has nothing left to lose. Kamishiro tells him that he's also someone who had everything taken from him, and that he has cryptocurrency hidden outside. If Daichi's resolve is real, Kamishiro says he'll help him escape and will give him everything. 50 billion yen worth of crypto, which is about 395 million US dollars, hidden somewhere out in the world. Daichi reacts in disbelief, saying there's no way he can believe that. Kamishiro tells him there's no need to be so surprised. This is the normal reaction he always gets. He tells Daichi that if he changes his mind, he should go to the prison library and find a book with a black cover at the end of the window. Just then, as Kamishiro leaves, another prisoner comes up to Daichi and asks if he's close to Kamishiro. He warns him that Kamishiro is a con artist and that he should stay away from him. He adds there's a rumor that Kamishiro was caught for large-scale fraud and murder, and that he was also involved with the Yakuza. This makes Daichi suspicious of Kamishiro. Later, Daichi goes to the prison library and searches for the book Kamishiro mentioned. He finds it, a book with a black cover. When he takes it out, he discovers that it has another book hidden inside. He goes to a table and opens it. Inside, he finds a book about Kamishiro, where he was listed as the president of a company. After that, Daichi spent an entire week reading the book. One night, just as he was about to sleep in his prison cell, he suddenly wakes up and finds that Kamishiro is inside his cell. Surprised, he asks him how he got in. Kamishiro replies that he asked the guard to let them sleep together for a bit. Kamishiro then asks Daichi if he finished reading the book. It turns out that Kamishiro's real name is Kozuke, the youngest person to create a publicly listed company, an unconventional venture business manager who later became involved in a massive fraud case, committed murder, and lost everything. Everything about him was written in that book. Kamishiro doesn't deny any of it. Instead, he asks Daichi whether he truly wants revenge, and if he's ready to throw everything away to get it. Daichi thinks for a moment and replies that he doesn't have anything left to throw away anyway. If he can take revenge on the one who framed him, he'll do whatever it takes. This convinces Kamishiro. He tells Daichi that his first mission is to get close to a certain person in the prison. Kamishiro then tells him about a person named Ogawa. He was a powerful man who had beaten many criminals, but he was someone different, respected, and feared. Kamishiro asks Daichi to get close to Ogawa and personally introduces him. Ogawa seems to like Kamishiro as well. However, when Kamishiro asks Ogawa about something called ice, Ogawa's expression changes. He leaves abruptly, saying he won't talk about it. Kamishiro then explains Ogawa's background to Daichi. He was a former detective, very capable at his job. But in his pursuit of information, he didn't hesitate to associate with gangsters and semi-criminal groups. He was trying to settle scores from his time as an outsider, but ultimately he ended up on the losing side. Kamishiro tells Daichi that he needs to find out about ice, specifically a drug called Heaven's Ice, a synthetic narcotic created by mixing several other drugs. In the murder case Daichi was involved in, Heaven's Ice was detected in the girl's body, something the authorities had kept hidden from him. This makes Daichi realize he truly was framed, and he becomes angry, vowing to take revenge for Sayaka too. So Daichi's first mission is to get close to Ogawa and extract information about Heaven's Ice, particularly who uses it or distributes it, so they can find out who's behind the setup. During bath time, Daichi approaches Ogawa and tells him he needs information about Heaven's Ice and that he's willing to reward him for it. Ogawa initially seems excited, but he quickly realizes that Daichi isn't offering the kind of reward he was expecting. As Ogawa walks away, Daichi suddenly notices Ogawa's .44 caliber weapon and is shocked. It's supposed to be illegal. After that, Ogawa realizes that Daichi has a nice face, but he never expected he was hiding a blade like a magnum. Daichi then asks Ogawa to close his eyes. Ogawa hesitates but does so, thinking something's about to happen. When Daichi tells him to open his eyes, Ogawa sees that no one else is left in the bath. Daichi once again asks Ogawa for information on the Heaven's Ice drug. He urges him to reveal who was selling the drug, but Ogawa tells him he cannot disclose his client's information. Suddenly, Daichi pulls a blade to Ogawa's neck. In response, Ogawa grabs Daichi's hand and throws him down. While doing so, Ogawa notices several moles on Daichi's neck. Daichi quickly regains his footing, grabs Ogawa's wrist, and pleads with him, saying he'll do anything to get information about the drugs because he needs revenge. He promises Ogawa that if he helps him, he'll pay his debt back no matter what. Ogawa replies that it's not about paying back a debt and that information isn't free. He compares Daichi's promise to someone saying they'll repay a debt if they win the lottery. Completely illogical. Suddenly, Daichi cuts his own arm and swears on his blood that he will do anything, whatever it takes, to get his revenge and pay Ogawa back. Stunned by this act, Ogawa finally agrees. He drinks Daichi's blood and tells him he's now memorized it. Ogawa then shows Daichi a scar on his body, one he received from a client at a certain club. He tells him that the Heaven's Ice is connected to that club. To get more details, he'll need someone who has connections there, implying Kamishiro, who had bribed a guard earlier to clear the bath for them and had even offered the guard a large sum in case he lost his job. However, the time limit in the bath was only 5 minutes and Ogawa and Daichi exceeded it. As a result, the prison guards stormed in and restrained them both. They were each sentenced to 2 weeks in solitary confinement for their actions. Despite the punishment, Daichi was determined to endure anything if it meant getting closer to his revenge. 2 weeks later, Daichi returns to his regular cell and finds Kamishiro already inside waiting for him. Kamishiro tells Daichi that money can buy anything, so he used it to get himself transferred into Daichi's cell. He also says that while Daichi was in solitary confinement, he did some research for him. He asks Daichi if he still has no idea who actually framed him. Daichi admits that he does have a suspicion. He says he's not completely certain, but most likely it was 3 specific people. Kamishiro confirms that he's absolutely right and tells him that he will give him the tools he needs to get his revenge. At first, Daichi thinks Kamishiro is talking about the cryptocurrency again, but instead, Kamishiro asks him to recount everything that happened on the night of the incident. Daichi explains everything in detail. While leaving, his friend handed him a drink. After drinking it, he fainted and collapsed. When he woke up, he found himself next to the dead body of his friend, Sayaka, and moments later, the police arrived. After that, he met the lawyer who would end up framing him. Kamishiro then asked about the connection between his friend and the lawyer. Daichi remembers that a man, someone who claimed to be a customer at a VIP party, introduced him to the lawyer that night at the bar. This man is rich, likes women, and Daichi comes to the conclusion that this person is the one who killed Sayaka and bribed the lawyer to frame him. Kamishiro agrees there's no doubt that those 3 people are responsible. Because of them, Daichi is serving 15 years for a crime he didn't commit. This infuriates Kamishiro, but he cautions Daichi not to rush. He tells him to hold onto the sweet hope of an opportunity for revenge. Daichi begs him to give him the 50 billion yen in cryptocurrency so he can destroy them and drag them into hell. But Kamishiro tells him that he needs preparation first. It will probably take 1 to 2 years. Giving him a large sum of money now would be meaningless if he doesn't know how to use it. The important thing is to gain the knowledge. Kamishiro then gives Daichi a stack of books and tells him to start reading, that the training begins now. From that day on, Daichi begins spending his days reading books in the library and memorizing all of them. Kamishiro begins showing Daichi a wide range of books and tells him to memorize all of them. Determined, Daichi devotes himself to studying, reading by day and even through the night. Kamishiro then tells him that knowledge alone isn't enough. He also needs physical strength. So Daichi begins intense strength training alongside his studies, building up his body so he won't be easily defeated by others. Later, Kamishiro tells him that the next phase is learning how to manipulate people. Daichi's next mission is to approach a prisoner named Tako. Daichi finds Tako, sits next to him, and begins talking, slowly building a friendly rapport. Tako is a timid inmate who admits he's often teased because of his name. When Daichi compliments him, Tako is surprised and visibly moved. Daichi keeps talking to him, sharing a bit about himself and showing genuine interest. Eventually, Tako opens up. He reveals that he was convicted for manipulating stock prices and is now serving time. He also says he struggles to talk to anyone in prison, but Daichi offers to be his friend. This was all part of Kamishiro's teaching. He had instructed Daichi to listen 70% of the time, speak only 30%, maintain eye contact while asking questions, and generously praise the other person. Daichi follows this exactly, and as a result, he and Tako quickly become friends. Kamishiro later tells Daichi that Tako will be an important part of his future team, one he'll need to take on those in power. With his deep knowledge of the stock market, Tako is already valuable. Kamishiro had even begun including Tako in study sessions. Daichi tells Kamishiro that he's willing to do anything for revenge, and he's not afraid to ask anyone for help. Kamishiro replies that he'll reveal the next steps once Daichi graduates from his school. From then on, during the day, Daichi, Kamishiro, and Tako study together. Daichi learns about stocks, company structures, and market behavior. At night, he listens to Tako talk about politics and economic patterns. During exercise, Kamishiro teaches him additional skills: mental, strategic, and physical. Slowly but steadily, over months of relentless effort, Daichi grows stronger, both in body and in knowledge, transforming into a completely different person than when he first entered prison. After that, Kamishiro tells Daichi that he now needs to learn how to talk to women. He points out a man sitting on a bench, a blue-looking former host named Haruki, and tells Daichi to get close to him and observe him carefully whenever he has the chance. Kamishiro also confronts Daichi about his mother's death, advising him not to let his emotions get the better of him going. Later, a guard tells Teichi that he has a visitor. When he goes to the cafeteria, 2 individuals introduce themselves to him. Teichi thinks that maybe they decided to reinvestigate the case, but they tell him they are not there about the case. They are there for Kamishiro. They want him to get information from Kamishiro about the cryptocurrency he's been hiding somewhere. Teichi realizes that they want him to become their spy in exchange for getting out of jail. The person offering this deal tells him he has a junior from university at the Ministry of Justice who can arrange an early release for him. Teichi has 10 years left on his sentence, but this offer could get him released 10 years early. 10 years is a long time, and the chance to get out early is tempting. But he realizes that Kamishiro has been the only person who has treated him fairly. He decides he can't betray him. Daichi rejects the offer and walks out, choosing not to trust the authorities again. Meanwhile, the same man from the VIP bar, the one who had introduced Daichi to the corrupt lawyer, is now in a luxurious building with that same lawyer. They laugh, confident that they will soon gain access to Kamoshiro's fortune. But the lawyer mentions that he's heard Daichi is getting close to Kamoshiro. That concerns them. The man coldly declares that Daichi now needs to disappear, is becoming a threat to their plans. Back in the prison yard, Daichi starts getting friendly with Haruki. They talk casually, and at one point, Haruki turns to him and says that the two of them are kind of the same. This surprises Daichi for a moment. He doesn't quite understand what Haruki meant, but he decides to leave it for now. They say goodbye to each other. Later, Daichi tells Kamoshiro that Haruki seemed like a nice guy, but there was something off. He couldn't read his mind and his eyes weren't smiling. Kamoshiro tells him to trust his intuition. He then reminds Daichi about Bamba, the man Daichi fought when he first entered the prison. Kamoshiro informs him that Bamba's time in solitary confinement is ending today, and he'll be rejoining the general prison population. In other words, he'll be living alongside them now. Kamoshiro explains that Bamba has a little sister whom he cares for deeply. A few years ago, she was brutally assaulted and severely injured. She remains hospitalized to this day. That's why Bamba was so furious that day. He thought Daichi was just another monster who hurt women, and he wanted to kill him. Kamoshiro advises Daichi to be cautious around him. Meanwhile, Bamba is in his cell reading books when Kamoshiro enters. Bamba recognizes him and greets him, asking what he wants. Kamoshiro tells him that he wants to talk about something important. At the same time, in the prison yard, Daichi is talking to Haruki again. Suddenly, Haruki tells him with excitement that he'll be released from prison in a few days, and he's thrilled to be able to dash the women's again. This revelation stuns Daichi. Haruki goes on to say that he used to hook women on drugs and turn them into puppets he could control. After that, he'd send them to work in soaplands, making even more money off of them. Hearing this deeply shocks Daichi. Haruki smiles and tells him that he's heard Daichi also drugged and killed a woman. That's what he meant earlier when he said they were the same. Suddenly, someone appears behind Haruki while he's talking to Daichi. Without warning, Bamba grabs Haruki by the neck and begins choking him, enraged after overhearing Haruki talk about exploiting women. Daichi rushes in to stop him, but Bamba notices him too. The situation escalates and Daichi gets caught up in the violence. Later that night, a doctor comes out of the surgery room and speaks with Kamoshiro. He tells him that the operation was extremely difficult, especially for Haruki, who was critically injured and had very low vital signs. Kamoshiro reveals that Bamba had attacked Haruki, and Daichi got involved while trying to stop it. The doctor explains that with the prison's limited medical equipment, performing the surgery was a major challenge, but he managed to pull it off. Kamoshiro is relieved to hear this. However, a policeman nearby overhears the conversation. After Kamoshiro and the doctor leave the room, the policeman enters the operation room. Both Haruki and Daichi are unconscious and in bad condition, lying in hospital beds. The officer approaches Daichi, reads his name tag, and discreetly injects something into his IV. The next day, Daichi's girlfriend Meru is walking out of her university when Daichi's friend Go approaches her. He casually asks if she wants to go to a concert with him, but seeing her crying, he realizes something is wrong and asks if she's still waiting for Daichi to be released. Meru, through tears, insists that there's no way Daichi could have murdered a woman. This makes Go angry. He tells her that a lawyer he knows informed him that Daichi suffered a heart attack in prison and that he's dead. Meru is devastated and breaks down crying. Go puts his hand on her shoulder, trying to comfort her. Meanwhile, back at the prison hospital, Daichi has actually died. In the prison library, Tako is crying. Kamoshiro notices this from a distance. Tako sobs as he realizes the truth. Daichi is really gone. Kamoshiro quietly tells Tako that he still can't believe Daichi is really dead. Meanwhile, the police begin investigating the events surrounding the operation room. One of the officers stationed outside the hospital ward reflects on Haruki's condition, how badly he was beaten just before his release, and how strange it is that Daichi died suddenly from a heart attack. He even mutters that in a twisted way, maybe dying like that was a better outcome for Daichi. Elsewhere in a lavish building, the corrupt lawyer and the VIP client are celebrating. They're confident now that they have nothing to fear. With Daichi, who's getting dangerously close to Kamoshiro, out of the way, they believe any threat to their operation has been eliminated. They toast to their success, pleased that they had Daichi killed. Sometime later, a man with his face wrapped in bandages is released from prison. Outside, he carries flowers to a graveyard and stands before a gravestone. As he lays the flowers down, he begins unwrapping the bandages, revealing that it is actually Daichi, standing in front of his mother's grave. In truth, Kamoshiro had told Daichi that he had to die, but he didn't mean it literally. He meant that Daichi had to abandon his identity, his life as Daichi. Before the surgery, the prison doctor explained everything. It'll be transplanting Daichi's entire scalp and performing full facial reconstruction using Haruki's features. Daichi was shocked, but Kamoshiro assured him it was the only way forward and that he had to be ready. So the previous night's surgery wasn't just about treating injuries, it was actually a secret facial exchange operation. The procedure was a success. Daichi now wore Haruki's face and had been released in his place. Meanwhile, the real Haruki, now with Daichi's face, was the one who died from the heart attack caused by the injection secretly administered by the corrupt police officer.